Welcome to my channel, Soul and Beauty. My name is Sydney, and in today's video, we're gonna be talking about something very heavy and a sensitive topic, and it's gonna be very hard for me to talk about, and I'm very nervous about this, but I feel like it's a important video to make. We are gonna be talking about grooming and my experience with being groomed by an older man. And the reason why I want to make this video, I have multiple reasons. It's going to help me process things and kind of heal by talking about it and finding other people that have also had this happen to them. And B, I want to give people advice. I don't want this video to just be my experience. I also want to be pointing out when this happens, this isn't normal, and I just want to let people know that are younger than me or are in a relationship that they think is normal but it's not, or people that are may be groomed in the future so they can see the signs. So yeah, I'm very nervous, but bear with me and be nice to me in the comments because this is very hard for me. But I have a few disclaimers before we begin. So yeah, the disclaimers I have are, first of all, this is my personal experience. I realize that not all age gap relationships are going to be a grooming situation. Although my personal opinion, I don't think age gap relationships are normal. But if you have a different opinion, that's fine. This is my personal experience. The second thing I want to say is I realize that women can do this too. This isn't just about older men doing this to younger girls. It can be any gender. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really have to do with gender. It's more of a power dynamic thing. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into this. Okay, so before we get into everything that happened, I need to give a backstory about who I was before all of this. So basically, I had just gotten out of a long-term relationship, a year and a half. I just graduated high school, so I was 18. The relationship that I got out of was very controlling, emotionally abusive and manipulating, very codependent. It wasn't healthy at all. So I just got out of a relationship. I also was not on good terms with my mom or my dad. So I moved out of my mom's to go live with my dad because we were constantly fighting. And and then when I lived with my dad, we already didn't have a good relationship to begin with. So when I moved in with him, we didn't really talk much, and when we did, we were fighting. So didn't have a good relationship with both my parents. I had a lot of issues from the relationship I just got out of, as well as previous relationships. So I definitely had abandonment issues, still do, but I was very bad with my abandonment issues. Looking back now, I definitely had borderline personality disorder, and I just was not healthy mentally at all. So yeah, like I said, I had just graduated high school. I broke up with this boyfriend, so then I turned 18 in October, and then right after I turned 18, it was a couple weeks after, I got this job at this factory. So basically my mom worked at this factory, and she would tell me how I need to get a job since I'm not going to college. And my plan was to take a year off. So I was okay, I'm gonna work at this factory. And I called them every day begging I need this position, and they finally found one for me. And the weird thing was, so there's multiple different factories in the town I live in, and the weird thing is I was supposed to be placed at my mom's factory on night shift with her, but then last minute they changed it to me being at another factory on day shift. And I think back now, if it wasn't for that change, none of this would happen. And it's almost it was written in the stars. This was gonna happen regardless. I don't know. I just find it so weird. But anyways, so yeah, I go into this job. It's a factory. And if any of you have ever worked in a factory, it's all men. And the men that work there are dirty ass dogs and dirty pigs. And they're no offense, if you work in a factory, I'm saying majority, but majority of the people there, they're scum, straight up scum. So yeah, basically this job was all men. They were all disgusting, and I was walking in here a vulnerable, not mentally well 18-year-old girl. I'm pretty, I have a big bum, And even if I wasn't pretty or have a big bum, I think the same thing would still happen. Because the guys there, they just like to target young women. They're just disgusting creeps. So yeah, it was not a good thing to be walking into alone. I experienced a lot of sexual harassment, and I'm not going to get into all that today because I could go on forever about that, and I'll probably make another video just on the job by itself. But we're not talking about the job today. We're talking about the coworker I worked with, the one that groomed me, the one that ruined my goddamn life. That's what we're talking about today. I need to think of like a name for him, like a dirtbag, like scumbag name, because that's literally like what he is. Okay, we're gonna call him Bob, because like that's just one of those names. Okay, so when I first met Bob, I thought he was so annoying. Like he was so annoying. He was trying so hard to talk to me, ask me all these questions. He was trying so hard to be funny, and like I found out he was 36, so that's what he told me. He told me he was 36. And like we were just making small talk. I would ask him questions about his life. He'd ask me questions about mine and whatever. Like we had like a work friendship, whatever. But it wasn't anything like that big of a deal. Like we would chat sometimes while working, but I remember him being so annoying and trying so hard to like make me laugh and be funny. But as time goes on, he starts working with me more. And this was the weird thing, is that there's different like areas that you work in, and like the title and position that I was in, he had a totally different title and position, but like we worked like near each other, but there was no reason that he should have been working with me. And as time went on, he started working in my area, and looking back now, like he planned that on purpose because he was best friends with our supervisor. So I know for a fact, or not for a fact I guess, but I know damn well that he was asking the supervisor if he could work with me so he could get closer to me, because he started working with me, and I know he wasn't supposed to be in my area. So we were working together every day at one point, and we started getting like more friendly at work, like just like talking every day, like laughing more, talking about our lives, whatever. Like when you work with somebody, like this was a full-time job, so we were working 8-hour shifts 5 times a week. So the more you work with people like that, like your coworkers start to become like your whole life. Like you see them more than your family. So I was working with this person every day for 8 hours a day. So we became like good friends at work, and he immediately tried to put himself in a position of power because I was new, and he always would say, I've been working here for 10 years. If you stick with me, you'll definitely get hired. Because I wasn't hired just because I was working there. There's this thing called like a temp agency where like the temp agency will place you at a job for a given amount of time, and then if you pass like the probational period, then you are hired on full time. So I was only a temp, and I had to be a temp for 3 months. So at any point in the job, like they could be like, oh, we don't like her, we don't want to hire her. So basically as a temp, I had to prove that I was like worthy of working there. And like I was a good worker, okay? Like I did not need his fucking tips and tricks, but he insisted that, oh, if you stick with me, you'll definitely get hired. I've been working here for 10 years and I'm best friends with the supervisor, so you definitely want to like be on good terms with me. So like I was thinking like, holy shit, if I get on this guy's bad side, like I might not get hired. And I needed this job because my mom wanted me to work, and like I needed money to save up for school. So like immediately I felt like, okay, I need to like at least be on this guy's good side and kind of like follow what he's telling me to do so that I can make sure I'm getting hired. Like I was so naive and dumb. I immediately was just like, oh yeah, this guy's been here for 10 years. Like he knows everything. So literally it became like he was my right-hand man at work. Like he was basically like the one training me, which was not good because it put him in a position where like you have to listen to anything I say, and if you don't, like you're not gonna get hired. So it was already like it wasn't healthy, but I didn't realize that, okay? Like I just wanted a job. That's all I wanted. So after we started working together for a bit, I'd say like after the first week, he started messaging me on Facebook, which I don't know why I didn't take this as a red flag, but I'm the type of person where like I like to be friends with everybody, like especially if I'm at a new job. Like, I don't have any sense of boundaries, and that's my problem. Especially, like, yeah, I just don't have boundaries. So, like, if somebody wants to be my friend, I'm like, oh yeah, you can text me, you can whatever. Like, I don't really care. I don't care, like, your age or whatever. I'll just text you because I'm bored and, like, I don't have boundaries, which, like, it's not good. It's not healthy. And back then, I had abandonment issues. I was very lonely. So I was taking any, like, interaction with people I could get. And, like, I don't know. I'm not trying to sit here and talk bad about who I was back then, but at the same time, like, looking back now, it's just like, I can't believe I was like that. But, like, if you're watching this and you're going through the same thing, or you went through the same thing, like, I don't want you to be hard on yourself, because it doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything but stop you from healing. But anyways, yeah, so he started messaging me on Facebook, and, like, it was just, like, random shit. Like, it would just be, like, weird stuff that, like, we would talk about at work. Like, he would say it and say some joke and, like, whatever. We would, like, have these little chats. But then, like, he started messaging me more and more, and I would reply more and more because, again, like I said, I was bored. I was depressed. I had all these issues with my parents. I would go home every day after work and just, like, smoke weed. Like, I was super depressed. So the fact that I had somebody text me, I was like, oh yeah, I'll text you back. And it started becoming that we were, like, texting each other, like, every single day. And, like, I thought it was, like, weird, and I thought, like, okay, I shouldn't be texting this older guy every day, but I was, like, again, like I said, like, I just wanted to talk to anyone, so I didn't really care. So yeah, we started to become work besties. So basically, like, we were together all the time at work. So basically, I learned about him. So Bob, sorry, I have my notes down here. If I keep looking down, I just have some notes to keep, like, my thoughts in order, because if I don't, I'm not gonna have, like, any, like, timeline to this story. But yeah, basically what I learned about him is that he is 36. He has a kid, a step kid. So his kid is a girl, and at the time I think she was 10 and I was 18, so I'm, like, only 8 years older than his daughter, bro. So yeah, he has a kid. And he also lived with his, like, ex-wife, but, like, they were never married. But he lived in the basement, and, like, he told me that they were split up, but he lived in the basement because he didn't want to, like, move away from his kid, which, like, that sounds like a red flag already. Like, who's to say they were even broken up? Who knows? I don't know. But he told me that they weren't together, and that they fought, like, every day. So he would, like, be in the basement and just, like, drink every night. So that's what I knew about him. Another thing that he started doing is like, telling me who I can and can't trust at work. This is another thing that groomers will do, is they'll try to establish themselves as somebody that is trustworthy and that everyone else around you can't be trusted. So he started telling me how, oh, don't talk to this person, they're a weirdo. Oh, that guy, yeah, you don't want to talk to him, like, blah, blah, blah. He started, like, talking shit about everybody we worked with. Or he would, like, tell me, like, oh my god, you'll not believe what this guy said about you today. Because, like, I would wear leggings and, like, whatever, and I have, like, a butt or whatever. So he would be like, oh, you will not believe what this person said about your butt today, like, blah, 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 like, they're being a weirdo. So then I would be looking at these guys like, ew, I don't want to talk to you because Bob told me that they said this. So, like, I would be creeped out by these other guys, even though the whole time, like, he was doing the same thing. Like, I was told by people later on that he was pulling up my Instagram, looking at my pictures, like, saying gross stuff to, like, people around me, but then he would tell me that other people were doing that. Like, he was such a goddamn liar. But yeah, if you are in, like, a situation like me and you're not sure, you want to look for, like, are they trying to get you to trust them over anybody else? Are they trying to be, like, your right hand man with, like, everything? Those are, like, some signs. But anyways, so yeah, I got to the point where, like, I literally did only trust him because he was, like, my friend at work. Like, you know, when you have a friend at work, like, you trust them more than other people. You have, like, this one person that, like, oh, you talk shit about people with them, and, like, you know, like, you have a close relationship and you don't really have it with other people. I had that with this fucking 36-year-old man, but I didn't really think anything of it. I was just like, oh yeah, like, he's helping me out. And, like, the other thing you have to realize is, like, somebody that's in a position of power or that's older than you or whatever it is, like, they don't just want to help you for nothing. Like, why would they want to just, like, help you for no reason? nobody in life wants to just help you for no reason. And like, I'm sure there's some circumstances where like there's nice people and they want to like help you out in life, but if someone is trying to become like your right hand person that wants to like guide you and kind of be like your like, I don't know, they're trying to be like this guide for you in life, like nobody just does that for no reason. Like they're always trying to get something out of it. You have to ask yourself, like, what are they getting out of this? Because if it's just helping you, like that's just not true. Nobody is just going to go to their way to help you and make sure like, no, nobody does that. Other stuff that started to happen is he started helping me with life stuff. So like I said before, like I didn't have a good relationship with my mom and I didn't have a good relationship with my dad. So I didn't want to ask them about like life stuff. So when I moved to my dad's, I basically had like the whole basement to myself and I wanted to get like some furniture. And who did I ask for help? I asked Bob. So I asked Bob to help me get a couch from Facebook Marketplace so I could, and he helped me move it to my basement, and he met my fucking dad. Like, it's actually crazy, like, the audacity he had looking back, just like weaseling his way like into my life and like being around like my dad, like knowing damn well what he was trying to do this whole time. Like, it honestly is just so gross. But yeah, he helped me get a couch. He taught me how to get a credit card. And I remember there was this other guy at work who was older than him. So this guy was like 55 or something. And this guy was a weirdo too. And like, he gave me the creeps like right off the bat. But this guy would tell me like, this guy was telling me how to get a credit card. So I went up to Bob and I was like, oh yeah, so-and-so told me like, oh, I need to do this to get a credit card. And he was like, what? Why would you listen to him? Like, he's so old. Why would you listen to him? And he got so angry that like I was listening to some other guy. And like the fact that I didn't see that as a red flag, but like he was basically like saying to me like, oh, you shouldn't trust that guy. Like, he's way too old to be like helping you with stuff. Basically like literally admitting what he was doing. Like, you know, when people project, that's what he was doing. He was literally projecting. And I was, even at the time, I was like, isn't that what you're doing? But I didn't say that because like I said, like I wanted to be on good terms with this guy. I didn't want to get on his bad side at all because I need to get hired, and I thought this guy was like my only hope for some reason. So yeah, basically like he helped me with a lot of life stuff, which like it was actually very helpful at first. And if he just stayed as one of those guys that just like wants to guide me or whatever in like a nice way, like, oh yeah, I can help you do this and I can help you get a credit card, like that would have been fine. But it's the other stuff afterwards where he took it too far. But like at first when he was just helping me with that stuff, it was nice to have somebody like telling me, because I didn't want to go to my parents because I was not in a good place with them. Over time of like becoming better friends with him, like we started confiding each other with like life issues. So he would like complain to me about how him and his ex like wife girlfriend thing were like fighting every day. Be like, yeah, he would just say like she's always yelling at him and blah blah, and he said all he does is go home and drink at night and he's so depressed. So he would like confide in me with his issues, and I would do the same. I started telling him about my issues with my parents and like how I just got out of this relationship and whatever. So like that's another thing, is like you should never be getting on an emotional level like that with somebody you work with. If it's somebody you trust and they're your age and like you're actually friends with them, like fine, whatever. But if it's somebody older than you like that, especially if you're a girl and it's a guy, like I'm sure if you were a younger guy too and it was an older girl, I mean, it's still weird. Like, you shouldn't be depending on each other emotionally. It's weird, it's not normal. And yeah, something he would tell me all the time is that I'm very mature for my age. So that's another red flag. If somebody is always saying, oh, you're very mature for your age, no. Maybe you are mature for your age, but the reality is that they're immature, and the reason you relate to them so much is because they are mentally immature. There is no reason that an 18-year-old and a 36-year-old man should be that mentally on the same page. And when I say we were on the same page, like we were about everything. I did feel like extremely connected to him. I'm like into spiritual stuff, so back then I was extremely naive about that. I convinced myself that we were soulmates, and that's like why the title of this video is called You're Not in Love, You're Being Groomed, because I was fully convinced we were in love because we just like got each other. And there's no reason for that to happen unless they're mentally mature, because you shouldn't be on the same page with someone twice your age like that. It's just not normal. So the fact that like it doesn't really show anything about my maturity. It shows about his and how he's mentally immature. But then on the flip side, as soon as like I would have any opinion or something that like didn't align with his, he would say, oh, well, you're too young to know anything about life. Like, I know everything because I'm like, you know what I mean? He would kind of like talk down to me like I'm a little kid. But then it's like, you were just saying how mature I am for my age and how, oh my God, I didn't think you were 18 because you're so mature for your age. Like, you just get stuff, blah, blah, blah. And then as soon as you don't agree with something, they're telling you, oh, well, you don't know any better because you're just a kid. You're just 18. Like, that is not healthy behavior for somebody to be flip-flopping like that. Like, they're trying to tell you you're mature so that you'll be like, oh my God, like I'm good enough to be hanging out with this older person. But then when you disagree with them, they're trying to like belittle you so that you think, oh, I'm stupid, like I need this person's help. Yeah, it's really manipulative. Okay, so this is when things started to take like a weird turn with him. So I said before, like we were texting every day. So basically like I would be at home, like in my garage, smoking weed, texting him. We'd be talking about whatever. And like we'd be he'd start these fights with me. And they'd be fights like questioning my loyalty. So he would be like, oh, I heard you said this to so-and-so today. Like, why are you talking behind my back? And it would be something like I would go up to a coworker and be like, oh, said this. And it would be like something so like small, but it was the fact that I was speaking his name without him there that he like would get like so offended and think that like, oh, if you're saying this, if you're bringing up my name to somebody, then you must be talking shit. Like he would spin it that like I'm not a loyal friend and that I'm like talking bad behind his back and that like I'm plotting against him. Like he was very like, he wanted to make sure that like I was loyal to him, and that's like another red flag. If somebody is constantly questioning your loyalty for them, like they're trying to manipulate you so that you want to prove your loyalty to them, and it's not healthy, because if you have to walk on eggshells like that with somebody all the time, it makes you like constantly wanting to please them because you don't want to set them off. And like I said before, I thought I needed him to get hired, so I was like, oh, I have to only say good things about him. I can't say anything about him behind his back because then he'll fly off the handle and threaten to like get me fired. And that's what he would do. He'd be like, oh, I'm gonna tell the supervisor that blah blah blah, and you're not gonna, like, he would threaten me with this shit. So I would be like, it would make me like walk on eggshells and not want to set him off. And like it was so manipulative and so crazy. And like, oh my God, I just can't believe this. So any like person with like normal mental health, or like any other person that like could see this behavior as bad, like wouldn't fall for this. But me, like I saw this as someone that was like badly mistreated and had trust issues. And I'm the type of person where like I have trust issues. So like if I see someone else with trust issues, I want to prove to them that I'm a good person and that I wouldn't do that to them. And like, if you can't tell by now, like I'm a very empathetic person. Usually people that get into manipulative or abusive relationships are empathetic, and they're like healers, because when you go through a lot of trauma, you become like very sensitive to people's emotions, and you also want to seek out, like you want to heal people and you want to help people, and you don't want people to feel like how you felt. And it attracts a lot of narcissistic abusive people, because narcissistic abusive people, they are unhealed. And what do they want? They want someone to heal them. So it's literally like magnets to each other. The empath, the healer, and the unhealed narcissist. They are just drawn to each other. So yeah, I was drawn to the fact that he was so hurt and upset that anybody would ever, like, he would tell me about how he's been lied to in the past and he's been fucked over so many times. So I'd be like, oh my God, I'm not like that. And he was doing this on purpose. He was saying all of this on purpose because he knew for some reason, like, he knew I had a soft spot, and he knew that I was empathetic, and he used that to his advantage so that I would be manipulated into wanting to keep him calm and keep him like secure. And it's like, why is an 18-year-old trying to calm down a almost 40-year-old man? Like, it's not normal. It's not normal behavior whatsoever. Okay, so like basically from the day one, he was subtly flirting with me, but like I didn't really think it was a big deal because, again, like I said, I was in a factory full of men. I'm pretty, like, sorry, I am. And so I didn't really think it was a big deal. Like, guys are gonna flirt with me and that's fine. But he would like, one of the first things would be like, oh, how old are you? And I would be like, when he asked me how old I am, I would say, oh, I'm 18. He would be like, what? I thought you were 25. Like, you look really good. I'm like, okay. And he just started subtly flirting with me like that. It was anything, it didn't feel harmful at all. It was just like, whatever. But over time, slowly, as our friendship grew stronger, he would be like, he would say things about, oh, like, would you ever date an older guy? Like, he would put in things like, oh, well, do you think I'm attractive? Or he would say like weird sexual comments, and like he'd try to talk about like sexual stuff with me, and like, I don't know, it just over time it became more sexual, and he talked about sexual things, and he tried to get it to the point where like sexual topics weren't a weird topic for us to talk about. Like, as work friends, like, we can talk about this stuff and it's fine and it's cool. So like he would ask me how many people I've slept with, and like I would ask him the same thing. Like, I'm also dumb and naive. Like, I know it's not good to say that about myself, but like it's hard for me not to look back at myself and call myself dumb. And like, I know I'm making this for other people, so if like you do this stuff, I don't want you to think that I think you're dumb for doing this stuff too. It's just like an instinct for me to call myself dumb. I'm working on like myself, like the way I talk about myself, but like when I tell this story about him, it's really hard for me not to call myself dumb. So just know that I don't think you're dumb, and I don't think I'm dumb either, because looking back, he's dumb. Like, I'm not dumb, but anyways, we'll get into that after. But yeah, I'm the type of person where like I am naive, and like, or I was, and I didn't really mind talking about that stuff either. And like, I don't know, I didn't really mind flirting with people either. Like, I was also, like I said, I wasn't in a healthy state emotionally, so I did like the attention and talking about that stuff. I didn't really mind it. I just thought it was like funny, like, ooh, we're talking about sex, like whatever. So yeah, but yeah, the topic of sex definitely started to come up more and more, and he started to flirt with me more and more. Okay, so this is when it started to become like not good. So like I said, I would go home every day, smoke weed, be depressed. He would go home every day, drink in his fucking basement. He was an alcoholic. And it got to the point where we were texting each other every day. One day he was like, we're always texting, why don't we just hang out? And he was like, yeah, like, do you want to go to Tim Hortons and like hang out at Tim's? And like, I considered it, and I was just like, yeah, why not? Like, I was bored, I was lonely, I was depressed. I really did not care at that point in my life. So I started hanging out with him at Tim Hortons. And keep in mind, like, I think this was after, but during this like 3-month period, because like basically I started working there the end of October, and all of this friendship stuff happened between like October, November, December. But in this time period, like, I was seeing another guy that was my age. It was like not very serious, it was like casual, and then me and him ended up breaking up, but I was casually seeing him. And I think it was after, it must have been when we were still talking. I don't know. I think it was because we weren't that serious. Like, I started hanging out with the guy, and I didn't see it as like romantic or anything. Like, I was just hanging out with my friend from work. Like, what's the big deal? So yeah, we started hanging out at Tim Hortons, and just like hanging out. Like, we liked each other. Like, I genuinely liked being around him. It became to the point where he was like the most important person in my life. Like, I wasn't seeing my family. Me and my sister at this point in my life, we weren't really close. So yeah, I felt like I was like abandoned by my whole family. I wasn't seeing my pets either. Like, I moved out of my home, away from my mom, my pets, my sister. Like, I was just like alone at this house with my dad. I never saw my dad because he was at work. So I was just like alone, being like swooped up by this guy that was just like perfect, would buy me stuff, wanted to help me with everything, was like so nice to me, would give me all these compliments, was the best person. Like, he was this perfect person, so I trusted him, and he literally became my favorite person. And I didn't care about the age anymore. I was just like, yeah, like, this is my best friend. Eventually, when we were at Tim's, he told me that he might have feelings for me, and he started like, he would drop stuff as little like nuggets to see how I would feel about it and if I like would react badly or not. And I usually wouldn't, because like I'm a pretty like easygoing, open-minded person. So when he told me he had feelings for me, I was like, whatever. And then but I said like, I think I said like, oh, I think it's kind of weird, like, you're older than me. And like, he was trying to feel out like, oh, if I have feelings too, and I told him I didn't. And I was still seeing the other guy at this time too. So I was like, yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, you're too old for me, blah, blah, blah. So ever since then, he started like being like, oh, well, these people I know are in an age gap relationship and they're fine. And oh, these people, blah, blah, blah. So he started trying to tell me like, oh, age gap relationships are normal. It's not a big deal. I have lots of friends with age gap relationships. Like, there was a couple that we worked with. It was two like lesbians, and the one was 23 and the other one was like 45. So he was like, yeah, like, they're an age gap relationship and they said that they think we would make a cute couple. And he would say all this stuff to me. I was like, I don't know, it's kind of weird. And then me and the guy I was seeing, we had a huge falling out, and it was almost like he was kind of being like a fuckboy with me. Like, he wasn't treating me very good. So in my mind, I had the guy I was seeing that was like kind of using me for my body and was being kind of an asshole. And then I have this guy, he's older than me, but he's loves me and he treats me so well and he's such a good friend and he cares about me. So as soon as this guy like really fucked me over, it was almost like I completely like snapped. Like, I was kind of just like, I'm sick of guys treating me like trash. I want a nice guy, and if he's gonna be older than me, that's fine. So I switched mentally and I liked him. And I think my feelings were slowly growing over time, because he was manipulating me and grooming me. But yeah, I ended up telling him like I like him too, and oh my god, it grosses me out, bro. So yeah, like, before I told him I liked him though, like, I was very confused and I didn't find him physically attractive. I was attracted to his, like, I was trauma bonded. We were trauma bonded to each other because of all the shit we would talk about. And because he was grooming me, like, I felt just like attached to this person. But physically, I was like, he's old. I don't find him that, like, okay, he wasn't the most hideous person alive. Like, he wasn't fat or like hairless or anything, like one of those gross old men. Like, he wasn't the most hideous thing, but he also, like, I would never touch him unless I was groomed. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't have done this unless I was like trauma bonded to him. So I feel like I convinced myself I liked him, because like I didn't actually like him. I was trauma bonded, but I like convinced myself like, yeah, I like him and he treats me good, so whatever, I don't really care anymore. We were hanging out at Tim's and I think we were talking about it. Like, okay, keep in mind, a lot of this stuff is a blur because when trauma happens, like, your brain kind of blocks it out. So a lot of the stuff, like, I don't remember like exactly what happened, because it's hard for me to remember. Like, I've blocked a lot of it out. But yeah, so he asked me if we could kiss and I was just like, fuck it. Like, I just wanted to try it. And then we did, and like we made out. And like after, like, I went to the bathroom in Tim's, because we would like hang out in his car at Tim's. And I went to the bathroom and I remember being in the bathroom like, oh my god, what the fuck did I just do? But I like didn't regret it. Like, I was like, I don't know, it was wrong. Like, okay, I feel like humans, when they know they shouldn't be doing something, it makes them want to do it more. And because I knew it was like so not right, I was like, oh, like, this is exciting and fun. Like, and then the next thing that happened that like solidified like us like as a couple basically, oh my god, I can't believe it. It was Valentine's Day. This has ruined Valentine's Day for me, by the way. Like, Valentine's Day, yeah, the next thing that happened that like solidified like our relationship or whatever was on Valentine's Day. So it was like right after all this stuff, and he asked me like, "Oh, I want to like hang out with you somewhere, but I know we can't at your house because like your dad, so why don't we go to an Airbnb?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." Like I don't know why I agreed to this, bro. Like I'm not here to sit and judge myself even though I want to, but regardless, I agreed. And he was like, "Okay, I found this one and we can go on Friday, February 14th." And I said to him, like, "Isn't that Valentine's Day?" And he's like, "Oh, I didn't even realize." Like, bullshit. He knew what he was doing. So for some reason, I was like, "Yeah, that's fine. Let's go." I thought we were just gonna like hang out as friends, but like low key, like, oh my God. Okay, I'm trying not to get embarrassed. Like, I'm trying to put all my stuff out here, even though like I know people I know are gonna watch this and think I'm gross and whatever. I don't care. I'm not the one that should feel gross at the end of the day. But low key, like I knew like what I wanted to do, so like I wore like a cute like underwear thing. And yeah, so we went to this Airbnb. There was chocolate covered raspberries, like it was everything. And I was like, "Oh my God, like he's so sweet." He got me like this present and everything. Like it was really sweet. And then we like hooked up, like everything. And like that solidified it. Like by that point, like there was no going back for me. And like one of the other reasons why I thought it was okay to do that is because my friend at the time, he was like, "Oh, like I hooked up with a 30-year-old. It's not a big deal. Like just do it." So I was like, "Okay, like seems like everybody's doing it. It's not a big deal." So I did. And but I kept it from everybody. The only person that knew was that friend. So yeah, like now by this point, like we've hooked up, like we're starting to see each other. Like we were already seeing each other all the time, but now that we hooked up, it's like we were acting like a couple. But he started to become very abusive, and like he obviously already was by like the way he was like starting fights with me all the time and like manipulating me and being like, "Oh, I'm gonna get you fired," and like holding shit above my head. Like that was already like manipulative as it was, but it started to become emotionally abusive because yeah, like anytime we would argue, he would threaten to get me fired. He would he would have these massive freakouts. Like it was mostly over text though, so he would like have these massive freakouts where like he would send message after message, like a million messages, just like calling me names, being like, "How dare you talk to me like that? I've worked at this company for 10 years and nobody's ever talked to me like this. You're just a kid. How dare you?" Like he would belittle me, call me all these names. He would call me so many fucking names. He would like accuse me of cheating on him. He would like call me a slut, call me a whore, call me a dirty pig. Like I need to put in like I'm gonna be putting in pictures throughout this, so I probably have a screenshot of him calling me this. So yeah, like he would have these freakouts where he like calls me all these names, calls me a child, tells me I'm crazy. Like he would call me names, and then when I would react upset to it, he would freak out at me for being upset and say like I'm crazy, I have mental health issues, when he knows like I actually did. So like he would like prey on my weaknesses. So he would like say like I have all these mental health issues and I need therapy and I need help and blah blah blah. Like typical narcissistic behavior. He would gaslight me and make me think that I'm the one that's crazy for reacting bad to his poor behavior. Like he would also do this thing where he would like constantly tell me that people were talking shit about me like at work. So he would be like, "Oh, the managers think you're stupid. The managers think you're a slut for wearing leggings." Like he would tell me all this stuff, and it got to the point where I was so anxious at work. I had completely changed. I hope I have a picture of how I looked, but I literally was not eating. I had anxiety. I was like having mental breakdowns every fucking day. I lost so much weight. And then he would be like, "Oh, you've lost a lot of weight. Like you look really skinny. You look unhealthy." Like it was bad. Got to the point where every single day I was having like a mental breakdown. I literally felt so unwell. And you know why? Is because narcissists will latch onto somebody and they'll suck the soul out of you, and that's what he was doing. He was literally sucking the soul out of me. I was like a shell of who I was before. When I first started at the job, I was happy, I was excited to be friends with everybody. I just like talking to people. I was very social, very happy about life, even though I was still like, I had these issues and I was depressed. Like when I was at work, I was happy and excited. Got to the point where every day at work I had a scowl on my face. I didn't want anybody to talk to me because I thought, oh, they're either trying to hit on me or they're calling me a slut or dumb behind my back, because he would feed me all this shit in my head. Like he was so manipulative. Yeah, I wasn't eating at work. I was so like, he was sucking the actual soul to me. I was like a shell. Yeah, he would accuse me randomly of like sleeping with people. Like he'd be like, oh yeah, you're the slut at work, you've probably fucked every guy there. Like he would say all this stuff. I had this friend at the time, like he was gay, and like we would have sleepovers sometimes, and like I told him one time, but like I was like, hey, like he's gay though, so it's fine. And he would like freak out at me. He would be like, oh yeah, like he would just say the meanest stuff, be like, oh yeah, oh you're sleeping with your buddy. Like he would just like say the most vile things to me, and I always like would go back to him after he would call me all these names. And it was because I was manipulated, and it was because I was like addicted to the chaos. Like when you're in one of those relationships, it's like you get addicted to like them being nice to you again, because it's like you're always walking on eggshells, and then they freak out and then you're waiting for them to be nice to you again. And it's like, it's literally like a drug. Like you're addicted to the chaos and the trauma and whatever. I want to talk about two specific incidences that happened. So it's so crazy. Like I convinced my sister to meet him. So my sister and her boyfriend at the time, I was like, oh yeah, because my sister started being like, why are you hanging out with this 40-year-old man? Like what's going on? I'd be like, oh, you don't have to worry, like he's just a friend, he's really nice, he's been helping me. Like I tried to convince her that he was just like this nice guy that's trying to help me in life. And I remember I had them all meet. So at my dad's house we had a bonfire outside, and like I had them all meet, and it was fine. And like my sister even said, oh yeah, like he seems like a nice guy, like he doesn't seem like a weirdo. Like I got them to believe that like he was just like a friend at work, whatever. But like low-key I think they kind of saw like there's some weird vibes between us, but whatever. So yeah, I got them to believe that he was this nice guy. And then one time I was hanging out with my sister and her boyfriend, and he was fighting me. He was sending me all these fucking crazy messages, calling me all these names. So he was like, I want to call you right now. So I was like, okay. So I called him, but I put it on speakerphone. And he just goes in, he's calling me a whore. He's like, yeah, you're such a slut. I bet you fucked all the, like he's just going off, like, but he's like yelling, calling me a slut for all this stuff. And then I said something like, oh, like you realize you're on speakerphone, right? And like my sister is listening to everything you're saying. And he like hung up, and then he starts texting me. He starts going, oh my god, like baby, like I love you so much, like what do you mean people were listening, like why would you have somebody listen? But he was being super sweet. He was like, oh, like you should have told me that people were on the phone, like I wouldn't have said any of that. And I was like, exactly, like you fucking psycho. But of course after that, like I still didn't leave him. I was addicted to the drama and the chaos. And after like my sister heard that, she was just like, what is going on? And she was obviously very concerned. And I was just like, yeah, he's crazy, I'm not gonna talk to him anymore. But I obviously did. And then yeah, after that he was like super like, oh, like so your sister heard all of that, like she probably thinks I'm such a bad guy. And I was like, yeah, she does, she thinks you're a fucking psycho. And he was like blaming it on me for putting him on the speakerphone. And I was like, bro, you're the one that called me all these names, called me a whore, all this stuff, but you're gonna blame me because I didn't tell you you were on speakerphone? Like that's how psycho he was. He was just like so crazy. Another incident I want to talk about is his birthday. So it was, so basically, yeah, started working there in October. So October, November, December, January, February, March. His birthday was in April. So this is like 7 months later and I'm still talking to this freak. And so April 22nd is his birthday and he wanted to do something for his birthday, and we planned out this whole like we always went to Airbnbs and shit because like that's the only place we could hang out. So we went to this Airbnb like 3 hours away up north somewhere. I don't even remember where it was. And we're like buying all this food to like cook and have like this whole weekend. And like I also want to say, like, throughout this whole relationship, like, I didn't feel right about it, by the way. It's not like I was just like in like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, I thought I was in love with him, but there were so many times like when I was with him where I would be physically repulsed by him. But then when I wasn't with him, I was so attached that I would want to be with him all the time. And I remember I found a journal that I wrote at that time, and it says like, when I'm with him, I'm like disgusted by him, but when I'm not with him, I miss him. Like, what does that mean? Like, bitch, what? Like, I was literally repulsed by him, but I obviously like had issues and he manipulated me. So like, I couldn't get away from him, like no matter what. Like, I was like addicted to him. But it's not like this whole time, like, I was, like, in love with this gross man. Like, I definitely was like, what the fuck are you doing, Sydney? Like, all the time. Like, what are you doing? You need to get out. But, like, I didn't have the strength to do that. So just, like, keep that in mind. So we went up to this Airbnb 3 hours away. We were, like, doing shit for his birthday, whatever. There was, like, a hot tub there, whatever. And then he ended up, like I said before, he was an alcoholic. So, like, he's one of those alcoholics who, like, when they drink, they get super emotional and angry and they fight. Like, I was literally, like, taking care of an alcoholic 40-year-old at 18. Like, it was honestly just sad and weird and, like, disgusting. But anyways, he started, like, getting all upset about how his mom, like, he had all these mommy issues or something. And I don't know, like, what happened, but, like, he ended up, like, snapping at me. Like, that's what I couldn't stand about him is, like, I would say something and then he would be like, he would take it so personally. Like, he was always a victim, like, oh, how could you say that? And I would just be like, bro, like, I'm not trying to be rude. But he would take it to heart. So then, like, he would snap at me. And then when I get snapped at, then I get fucking mad. So I'm like, don't snap at me. Anyways, we ended up, like, getting into an argument. I went into the room to, like, go on my phone. He was texting me like, I can't believe you're treating me like this on my birthday. Like, how dare you? And I'm like, bro, I'm not gonna just treat you good on your birthday just because when you're fucking being a dick to me. So yeah, like, we were fighting, whatever. Then it's like 3 a.m. and he texts me, he's like, grab your shit, we're leaving. And then he comes in the room, because I was just like, I'm not leaving, it's 3 a.m, like, I'm not doing that. So then he comes in the room, he's all drunk and he's yelling and he's like, get in the car now, we're leaving. And he's talking to me like I'm literally 5 years old. And he's like, Sydney, get in the car now, we're leaving. And I was like, no, I'm not going anywhere. It's 3 a.m, you're drunk. Like, how are you gonna drive? Like, we're not doing that. And he's like bitching at me and he's yelling at me. And then he's like, you know what? You're acting like a little kid. And I was just like, I am a little kid. Like, that's when I snapped and I was like, I am a little kid. And when I tell you, the atmosphere in the room changed. Like, it was crazy. It was like the dynamic between us was no longer like normal couple. Like the whole time we were together, it was like we acted like this weird like couple. Like, it was just so weird. Like, I acted like a wife, bro, and I'm like 18 years old. Like, we acted like a couple. And as soon as I said I am a little kid, the dynamic changed instantly. It was like I was no longer wifey couple type material. It was like, I'm a child, you're an old man. And we were sitting there like looking at each other, and it was just like, it hit me hard in that moment. I was like, what the fuck am I doing here? Oh my god, I just remembered a key point in the story. The reason we got into this whole argument is because I gave him this fucking book for his birthday. This is so embarrassing. Like, I know I shouldn't be embarrassed, but I am. So basically, I didn't know what to get him for his birthday, and so I ended up getting him like this fucking book that like you make online and then they deliver it to you, and it's basically like a stupid little cartoon where you make the cartoons look like you and you say all this cute shit, whatever. And even when I was making it, I literally was like, I don't feel any of this, but I'm just gonna write it anyways to make him think. Like, I was crazy too. Like, I just was trying to keep up like this facade to like keep him from not losing his shit. Like, I was so scared of him like thinking that I didn't actually want to be with him when I literally didn't. So I was like, I made this whole book to be like, oh, like I feel this way about you and I'm in love with you, when I wasn't. Okay, I wasn't. But yeah, so I made him this book and I gave it to him. And the beginning of the book, you have to put their birth year. And I put his fucking birth year. And he read the book and it was all, he was like, oh my god, that's so sweet. He's like, but I have something to tell you. He says, that's not my birthday. And I was like, oh, like, what do you mean? Like, you told me that was your birthday. He's like, yeah, I have something to tell you. Like, I'm actually not 36. I'm 37. So, like, because it was his birthday, he would have been turning 37, right? No, he was already 37. And he was turning 38. So he lied about his age. And I know you may be thinking, like, what's 1 year? And that's what he was saying, too. Like, bro, you've already been with me, like, for 7 months. Like, how is 1 year that big of a deal? It wasn't the fact that it was 1 year. It was the fact that, like, it all kind of hit me at once. All the feelings of, like, why am I with this fucking weirdo all hit me at once. And I was just like, I shouldn't be with this man. He's 38 years old. He lied to me about how old he is. And he's lied to me about probably so many other things. Like, I was just getting to the point where I was like, I know this is wrong and it's very toxic. And so when I found out that he lied about his age and like he didn't tell me till like 7 months later, like I was pissed. So anyways, that's why we were fighting the whole night and like why he came into my room being like, we're leaving, blah, blah. So then when I said to him, I am a little kid, it was like the whole dynamic between us changed into like, you're a gross 38-year-old, I'm a child. Even though like there may be people watching this being like, you weren't a child, you were 18. Bro, 18 years old, you don't know anything about life. Like, fresh out of high school, bro, you are a baby. I don't care what any old man in my comments is gonna say. Like, you are not an adult at 18. Legally, yes, but mentally, you are not in your right mind to be an adult. And looking back now, like, even me as a 21-year-old, I would never touch an 18-year-old with a 10-foot pole. So the fact that, like, a 38-year-old man, like, it's so sick and disturbing, and the fact that people don't see it like as that is just, it's really disgusting and weird. But anyways, yeah, like the whole dynamic changed between us, and we ended up going home the next day, like not talking at all. And I was like ready to be done. I was just like, I need to be done with this guy. Like, I'm grossed out. And 2 days later, we were still fighting. 2 days later, he's sending me all this stuff. Like, if I have screenshots, I will put it up. But he's like, he's putting up all this, he's sending me all this crazy stuff. And he burned the book I gave him. So keep in mind, like, I'm a dumb ass and I spent $150 on this book for this man. And 2 days after I gave it to him, he burned it because he was mad at me. And he basically started like sending me pictures of all the pages being like, this is a lie, this is a lie, this is a lie, you're a fucking lying bitch. So he was sending all the pictures of the book, and then he burned it and sent me a video of him burning it. If I have the video, I'll play it.
Fake ass motherfucker.
And that, like, the psychological damage that does to somebody, like, I can't even describe it. Like, the fact that I was already in a place of like, what the fuck am I doing? And then I was like, you just burned $150. And I put I mean, I didn't really mean the things I said. Like, he was right, I didn't really mean them. But I was also like, bro, I just gave you a sentimental gift and you burned it. Like, the psychological damage that does to an 18-year-old girl, like, it's just wrong. Like, it's just really like fucked up. And looking back, I feel so bad. Like, I put my heart out on the line and somebody just took it and fucking crushed it. And it's just some other honorable mentions I want to talk about is like, he like gave me like 5 things of weed like this big to hold on to because he didn't want his like ex-wife girlfriend like stealing it. And when we got into a fight, like, I started to become just as crazy as him. So when he would call me a whore, I would be like, I'm gonna dump your weed down the toilet if you don't stop calling me names. And then he would get even more crazy. He would be like, I swear to God, if you dump that down the toilet, I'm gonna get my cousin to come beat, like he would threaten to have me beat up. He would call me all these names. He would threaten to come. Like, he was just so crazy. Like, there were so many crazy things. Like, this is just the tip of the iceberg. So much of it I have blocked out. And yeah, after that, I was mentally, like, I was already mentally destroyed before I even met him. After this, I was like, I had and still have so many issues from this time period in my life. I've spent like the last, I don't know, this happened when I was 18. I'm 21 now. I still think about it every day. I still like fall asleep at night crying. I replay all the shit in my head. Anytime I see a car that looks like his car, I have a fucking panic attack. Every time I see a guy that looks like him, I have a panic attack. Every time I enter the city that he lived in, I have a panic attack. Like, working after being with that guy, like going back to work, like, because I ended up going back to the plant, and like I would be scared of seeing him so bad because like I ended up moving to like night shift and he was on days, and like, bro, I had so much anxiety. I had people making fun of me at work. Like, there's just so much shit that like happened after that like destroyed me mentally. And it's actually crazy because it's crazy that the amount of people that like were making fun of me, like as an 18-year-old girl that clearly was groomed, and everybody at work was like making jokes, being like, just making jokes, like making fun of me. And I just thought it was so sick that like nobody was making fun of him for being like basically a pedophile. Like, he was 19 years older than me. Nobody was calling him a pedophile, but everybody was like, oh, do you have daddy issues? Oh, how does old meat taste? Like, all this weird shit. Basically, like, I was known as the girl with daddy issues that likes older guys for so long, and it gave me so much anxiety. Anytime like an older guy at work would even talk to me, talking to anybody just gave me anxiety. Like, he literally destroyed my mental health, like, beyond anything. And I ended up like going to the work about it, and if you want to hear that story, I'll have to make another video about it, and like my whole thing about like bringing it up to work and trying to get like him in trouble for it basically, and like justice for everything. Yeah, if you want to hear that story, let me know. But yeah, like, this was my story about being groomed. I feel like I could have said so much more, but this video is already super long. Basically, yeah, I just want to tell my story for like anybody else that has gone through this or might go through this or is in a situation and you're not really sure if it's like healthy or not. Like, these are the signs to watch out for. And just know too that like if you feel like embarrassed or like grossed out by yourself, like, that's fine, but you shouldn't be, because that's like just like the shame that everybody else is putting on you. Like, especially as women, everybody puts the blame on women no matter what happens. If you get abused, if anything, they're always like, oh, why didn't the woman leave? Oh, why did you go for a guy like that? At the end of the day, the guy or whoever groomed you, they are disgusting. They are the ones that should be embarrassed and ashamed. Like, you shouldn't have to be awake at night crying because you feel so grossed out by yourself, or you shouldn't have to like be the one feeling like you're gross for dating an older guy or girl. No, they should be grossed out. They should be embarrassed. They should have everybody calling them a pedophile. And just know that like, I understand what you're going through. If you need somebody to talk to, you can message me. And also, don't forget to go easy on yourself and to heal, because when you get out of a relationship like that, you probably have a lot of issues, and that's not your fault that you have those issues. It's the person's fault that groomed you. And it's important that you try to heal from them, because it can fuck you up mentally for a long time. And I'm just starting to like really get over it. Like, I wouldn't even say I'm close, but I'm doing better than I was a couple years ago. And that's why I'm filming this video, because I definitely think it's gonna help me to like get this off my chest and just like put my shit out onto the internet for people to see and like hear that like you're not the only one that's gone through this. I want to know that I'm not the only one that's gone through this. So yeah, that's my story about being groomed, and those are basically like the red flags and signs to know that you're not in love, you're being groomed. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, definitely like let me know. I would absolutely love if somebody else came to me and said like this story helped me so much or something like that. Like I just I just need to know that I'm putting this out into the world and somebody is gonna get something from it, because it's a very heavy topic. It's not easy for me to share this. It's embarrassing. Even though I don't want to admit that I'm embarrassed, I am. And yeah, I really hope that it will help somebody, and just like if not like help, if not help prevent it, I just hope like I can be like someone that you can relate to. Even if you weren't groomed, maybe you went through an abusive relationship and you can just relate to me. That's all I want, is for somebody else to like connect. So yeah, that's the end of my video. If you liked this video, I definitely have more stories about like this job I worked at, how toxic it was. If you want to like hear more stories about that, let me know. But yeah, that's gonna be it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it so much. You don't know how long I've been wanting to make this video. I've been wanting to make this for years. So thank you for watching if you did. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.